But yeah, phew. The kind of there's so much news, like there's so much going on with Cyberpunk right now, like both like just a mixed bowl of good and bad. Like, oh my god. So like I've been like for me, I've been playing the game for 3 days, and I admit I've been in my little bubble for about 3 days. Not too much in the bubble. So like I know like 2 days ago I realized that the console people playing Cyberpunk on console could basically not play it at all because it's so buggy and glitchy. But when it comes to like the actual kind of, I don't want to call it hate. So I don't want to call hate or criticism like the same thing. So I'm going to only talk to the hate because I do think that there's like a Cyberpunk 2077 hate train that is like leaving station right now. And I'm only talking about that. There are like criticisms of the company of Cyberpunk and everything, and that's fine. I get like Cyberpunk not working on console. It's pretty bad, and like people should not fucking talk about how like, oh well, it's on console, so why would you expect a game like a superior game like Cyberpunk 2077 to work on console? Like, no, dude, that's not like a good argument. Like, cause it should have been working on console, and there are a few reasons why I think it hasn't been working on console. But yet again, yeah, it is. That's true. Like, this is why I think it is. I think it's just fun to hate things. Like people just they look at something that a lot of people like, and they're like, well, like, let's hate on that shit, you know? I mean, this is really nothing new. Like, I can name a bunch of other products or movies, novels that people all piled on to hate, and it really just comes to understanding what kind of audience that you're a part of, which is like the main difference between like mass hype and overhyping something. People see, yeah, it's like again, and that's what I'm scared of too. Like I'm kind of scared for Cyberpunk. I'm not gonna lie, because if they get too much negative reactions or comments or PR, if they get too much negative PR, they could end up like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or what's the other game? Mass Effect Andromeda. More like Star Wars Battlefront 2 because that game actually did get better. Oh, or No Man's Sky. Like the game has gotten better with patches and everything, but there is still like a negative connotation when you mention those types of games. Yeah, that's why I said yeah, more like Battlefront 2. I mean in part to the like so Andromeda was known. Here's why I hope doesn't happen. When Andromeda came out, people were like complaining about like the facial animations, and they were bad. The facial animations were bad, but there were more problems with the game than the facial animations. So there are some people when it comes to Cyberpunk who are basically complaining. I think they're complaining or criticizing about the wrong things. So there's some people who are talking about how they're nitpicking about how some of the AI in the game is like not super realistic like other games. Like so for example, you can't really steal cars in this game and keep cars because the car will disappear, because I think it has like the game has a mechanic where instead of keeping cars around and using more VRAM or some shit, they unload and reload the cars around you so that all the cars seem random. Of course, you don't see them do this, but that's what you can't. That's why you can't steal cars. Basically, it's because the car that you've stolen would disappear. And like, I mean, I don't care too much about that because they make it so that you can have your own car that you can call at any point, your own personal car. So they've addressed in the game, they've addressed I think a fair bargain where they're like, okay, yeah, you can't keep a stolen car, but we'll make sure that you get to buy a car and you can call that car anytime you want to. And so like you're complaining about the wrong things if you're complaining about not being able to keep stolen cars. And then there was some other, like, I don't want to go into all of like the bad arguments or the bad complaints about Cyberpunk. The good complaints, of course, about Cyberpunk is perhaps like them not having the game available or playable on console, right? There's just some people who don't really care about having a $2,000 or $1,100 gaming computer. Or people just want to play Cyberpunk in their living room where it's comfy on the couch and stuff, and that's what consoles are for. And so like there are bad arguments on like people who are trying to defend the game by saying that, oh well, if you're not a part of the PC master race, then like screw you, you're holding us back. Even though that's a little bit true. But I digress. That's terrible. Yeah, I imagine that too. Yeah, so in Andromeda, I think Andromeda's problem was more than the facial animations. It was the story. It was like losing its identity, if I may be a little bit like if I could be that guy for a second. It did lose some of its identity. There were no stakes in the game whatsoever. You could not have a bad relationship with any of the characters in the game. Like everyone would just end up liking you at the end of the day. Like you could, in like Mass Effect 1, if you pissed off Rex, the Krogan, too much, you would have had to fight him. That's spoilers, by the way. But you would have to fight him, you have to either kill him. There were actual stakes in Mass Effect 1 and 2, and even 3. But in this game, there were just no stakes. Like, everyone just likes you as in Mass Effect Andromeda. And so, like, there were more pressing issues. Yeah, and so that's what overhype is. Like, if you think a game is going to be perfect, 100% perfect, you've already lost. That's what overhype is. So like in the title, it's there is a difference between mass hype and overhype. Overhype is thinking that the game is going to be 100% amazing. It's not gonna, like, all of the animations, animations are going to work perfectly. You're like, when you go into a sex scene, you're going to have like an erection for days, or if you like just everything about the game is going to be perfect. It's going to make you contemplate about life more. Like, it might not do that. It might just be a very great game. But that's what overhype is. And I think a lot of people, especially in the comment sections of people who talk about the overhype, are confusing mass hype with overhype. So like mass hype is more like just having a large group of people interested in one particular novelty, and mass hype is just hype. Okay, if you want to quantify what overhype is, it's basically something like, it's kind of, so like when you're talking about an iPhone, something can be kind of overhyped. When you're talking about something that is like the same each year and yet people like it, like it's just a mass amount of people like it, it can be both. It can be both like mass hype and overhype. If you can quantify like the reason why people like the new phones, or like the new products. Like in this case, I think iPhone have gotten better at like cameras. Ooh, they've actually have gotten better at cameras and shit. But like overhype, the definition that we're using is just like going beyond expecting beyond expectation, like having too high of expectations for a game and like selling it to people, or just like quantifying, like saying that how maybe let's just say that if let's just say that another let's just okay, so like Overhype can actually for Black Panther. I don't like this is just an example. Overhype could be on one aspect. Overhype can be, oh, this is like the first black superhero, and that's not true. Like if you're hype for the reason that is the first black superhero, then that is overhype because there's actually been other black superheroes. But Black Panther was the first superhero movie that actually focused on black culture and African American culture. It gave us a sci-fi kind of world of what it could be like what African state could be like in the future and stuff. It gave us like, yeah, it was new in some ways. It was a novelty for some ways. But if you're simply saying that, for Black Panther, that, oh, it's the first black superhero and that's why I'm hyped for it beyond repair, then that's overhype, as an example. Overhype, they called it the hype train. So cannot for the life. Okay. I watched some people videos about like the hype for Cyberpunk. And I think sometimes even in the video that I'm watching, they're confusing mass hype with overhype. Because I hear them use language like, so the Penguin video, I watched a guy, I think his name is, no, Penguin Zero, I think. He was talking about like how, like, he was using language like how he couldn't, for the deaf, he couldn't understand why people were hyped for, or were, it's kind of hard. Oh, but craft and shit. Oh, he actually brought in like math and shit. But like, I felt like it was like the language was kind of mixed. So like, not understanding why a person would take a month off for Cyberpunk is not particularly overhype, right? It might just be the fact that he wants to play Cyberpunk multiple of times. He wants to be able to replay it because you never know who's working. Like, there are some people who are not going to be able to work. It's easy as a Twitch streamer or YouTuber where you get to kind of just play games as like, I don't want to downsize the job or anything, but like, you play games for like, if you play games for a living, then games can kind of seem like, yeah, whatever, I play games for a living and it's still fun, but it's just a game. It's easy to overlook the fact that a person might be working like a job where he's too sleepy to play any game, or when he comes back home, like when he comes back home from work, he's just too sleepy to play games or whatever. Like, it's easy to like say, why would he want to take a month off of work just playing Cyberpunk? And there's no doubt that he's not going to just be playing Cyberpunk. Even though I don't think it'll take a month to beat Cyberpunk, it actually might if you're doing the full gameplay. But that's kind of what I'm saying. Is like, I don't care how people use their vacation time. If they want to use their vacation time to take a month off of work to play Cyberpunk 2077, that's their time. That's their time that they get to use. I don't think it's particularly unhealthy. I don't think this even means that this person thinks that Cyberpunk is going to be like a revelation from God or whatever. Like, that's basically being hyperbolic. But like, his points in the video was good. Like, on one hand, where it's like, yeah, people should not be expecting this game to change their lives. I personally have not seen anyone think that. I've just seen a massive amount of people being hyped for this game. But he did say he was looking on Twitch, or not Twitch, he was looking on Twitter and Reddit, and people seem to act like that. And I'm like, I don't care about those. These people are like fringe groups of people. Like Twitter, like, you can always find the crazy people from Twitter or like Reddit. like overhype the fuck out of this game. Like yeah, like they probably do think that you can always find that. I don't think it's particularly interesting to like shit on those types of people because they're going to get their own punishment, I guess. Like they're going to play Cyberpunk and it doesn't change their lives, and they're going to have to figure that out for themselves. So there's no use. There's no point in really like telling them, hey, listen, this is like maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like being excited. And like I like mass hype like so much because it brings people together. I can't be a part of the mass hype all the time. So, for example, Twilight. Uh, I'm fine with a lot of people like back in the past. A lot of people liking Twilight is fine for me, but it's not for me, right? I'm not a part of that audience. I realize I'm not a part of that audience. I'm not gonna try and put myself in that audience and be like, yeah, I really, yeah, this game is really, or this movie or a novel is really not is really bad. People is gonna like it for some reason. If, like you can't really put a quantity of hype on art. Um and I think that's what Cyberpunk is. And like that's another thing that he used in his video was that he said that well Cyberpunk at the end of the day is just a game. And I take issue with that kind of framing, that it's just a game. Because I do think that single player games, story games, are art. They're a part of art. You can't just say, oh, it's not. And when something is a part of art, it's no longer just something, you know? A painting is not just a couple of fucking paint on a paper, or a book is not just words on a page, and music is just not sounds that sounds, it's just a group of sounds. Like it becomes a bit something more. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like video games is a part of art. They can be, and art is something more. And if you're like into any kind of it's just a basic understanding of what art is throughout history. Art is transcended to being just something. It leaves an impression on you. It puts you in a different world. It is an adventure. Like video games, an adventure, and like video games are plenty art. It's not just for Cyberpunk. It can be for other games. If other games that you think are better than Cyberpunk is good, then go for it. Like that's art too. Yeah, art changes forms. Yeah, I think art is, in a universal sense, I think art is anything that leaves an intended impression on you. So if someone makes something that is intended to make an impression on you, or it doesn't even really have to be intended, really. But traditionally speaking, is like, I guess you could say that it's like intended. Then it's art. I mean, you could, if you can look at a tree, like I guess the more naturalistic art would be if you're looking at a beautiful forest and say this is art. Yeah, then everything can be art. But like in like a kind of traditional universal sense, art is anything that is intended to leave an impression on you in one way or another. That includes acting, when people act. That includes when people sing and stuff like that. Like art is not a rare snobbish form of like paintings and music and stuff. It's like all kinds of things. Like anything can be art. And so like when people kind of like say it's just a game, I don't think you're doing justice to just how much video games can change like how people look at things, or how games can suck you into like immersion. And yeah, I took issue with some of his video, and I, especially reading his comments, I can see who gets off the most on his video, where I just saw the hate train constantly in his comments, in his comment section, just basically talking, that's not, that wasn't his video. That's a Reddit thread I was looking on. My bad. No, his video was just the comment on Penguin's video. Comment section of Penguin's video was just basically people being like joking, like just joking about the game, which I'm fine about. But like, there's a Reddit post I was looking at. I'm not sure where it was, but there's some kind of Reddit post where people are just like nitpicking, shitting, and getting on the hate train as they usually do, to hating like mass hyped things. And so I like mass hyped things. It's the same with Game of Thrones. I really liked it when people were hyped about Game of Thrones, because like that just brought people together. It was just something that brought people together. And I feel like people are just like, they look at something as like mass hype, and if they don't like it, if they're not a part of the mass, they're just like, oh yeah, that's overhyped. Yeah, because Game of Thrones was another thing. There was like constant people who were talking. There, you hear the jokes, right? There was overhyped in Stranger Things. Maybe, yeah. I think there is overhype with everything, for sure. Like there are some people that overhyped it, but like let me make a statement. Game of Thrones is a good show. Stranger Things is a good show, or even a great show. Game of Thrones is a great show. Stranger Things is a great show. If a person says that, and just because you don't think it's a great show, you say that it's overhyped, then you would be in the wrong. But if a person's like saying something like, if you don't like Game of Thrones, you don't know what a good movie is, or you don't know what a good show is, that's overhype. That's overhype. So like there's difference. There's differences. So okay, so that is a good point too. Like that is, I think, very critical. So that is a good quote. Like, so when you say that it is a good, it's setting expectations that it will never live up to in your eyes, I think that is a good point to kind of understand about overhype. I think that is probably the most common overhype there is, just because people are very hyperbolic in how they speak about things that they really like. So if a person makes a general statement, hey, anyone who plays or Cyberpunk 2077 or anyone who watches Game of Thrones is gonna love it, that's overhype. That is overhype, and that's the most common form of overhype. You may not like it. You have to ask the question, like, do you actually like sci-fi, cyberpunk kind of things? If the answer is no, or dystopian kind of things, if you say no, then I'm like, maybe it wouldn't be for you, but it's worth checking out. That would be the appropriate response. But I think the most common overhype is saying that, oh, you're gonna love this game. Oh, you're like, I don't tend to tell people that. Like, when people ask me what Cyberpunk is, I'm like, or if like they don't know what Cyberpunk is and they ask if they should buy it, I'm honest. I'm like, well, do you like Cyberpunk theme, or do you like futuristic dystopian future kind of things? And if they say no, then I'm like, it's probably not for you, but you could try it out. It's definitely something, if you're interested in it, it's something I would actually try out. But after the hype to enjoy it. Yeah, I think I watched Game of Thrones partly in like within the hype, and I still enjoyed it. Yep, I understand. That's the same thing that I do. So like I actually used to be, and I'll say this just for me, I used to be ultra critical of movies and TV shows as well. In even video games, I used to be ultra critical, and the reason why I was critical though was because I was, I was religious back then, and so like, of course, I had like an objective standard of what is gonna be a good show. So what was a good show was if it had like minimal sex scenes, if it had no nudity, if it didn't talk too much about like philosophy, secular philosophy, like that kind of stuff. Like that was my standard, and so that's how I was overcritical, or or oh, I should say overcritical. I was overcritical of everything because I was trying to push everything into one standard, and so that's where being overcritical is. But yeah, I used to be that, but then I after that whole ordeal, after that era of my life, I start to try to take things in as they're supposed to. So every piece of art is supposed to be taken in a particular way, and if you don't know how it is supposed to be taken in, then it's not going to be enjoyable for you, and that's all right. It's just not for you. But I try to take in art as much as possible. Like I try to learn how to take in art, how to take in movies, novels, the best that I can, so that I can understand why other people like this kind of thing, because it's within my interest to know. Because I'm a writer, I want to write books for people. It's within my interest to know why people like certain things, and so like I have to put myself into, like, even when watching Twilight, I will put myself in like the position of like maybe a 14-year-old girl, or even like just it doesn't have to be even a boy. Right, so yeah, I can extrapolate on that. So when I say that, how you're supposed to, like, of course you can take in art in many ways, but there is a way. If you're playing Cyberpunk for, let's just say, if you're playing Cyberpunk for the comedy, if you're expecting Cyberpunk to be like funny or all action, then you're taking in the art the wrong way. It's not supposed to be. The game, the how the game was made was not supposed to be for that. Or if you're watching Twilight and you're expecting this yeah, like having an open mind on like, okay, what, when this person was making it's basically what inspired the author of the story to make something like this, and like understanding the mindset that this person was in. Yeah, I didn't say yeah, so when I say that word, I think it leaves. So if a person was marketed with let me find another example. Like, so Twilight. Oh, I don't know too much about that movie because I haven't really seen all of it. Game of Thrones, for example. So Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is made for a particular audience. I know this because whenever I write to an agent about my story, they always ask you about the audience. They say that your book should not be for everyone. It should be for an audience. You shouldn't be trying to make your book for everyone. There's an audience that you need to appease to, that you need to write for. So when I say that you're supposed to, I don't mean so objectively. I only mean the audience, like trying to actually understand the audience of the particular form of art. So like I said earlier, like if I really want to understand why Twilight is appealing, I would have to put myself in the audience. I would have to understand myself. I would have to kind of understand how people who like Twilight thinks, like just empathy or understanding what they find cool about it. Because there is a reason. Yeah. Because there's a reason why everyone is enjoying things that you don't enjoy. There's a reason for it. It's not random. It's not just like random people enjoy things randomly. There is a way that they're taking the art form in, so that is enjoyable for them. So like if I'm watching Twilight and I'm expecting like blade action, you can put this stuff there. Yeah. But if I'm expecting like just not expecting not expecting something else, you know? So yeah, it's kind of like it's hard to do, especially when you're if a person like either egoistical, or if they just like they have a hard time, or they just don't have an open mind. I'm not knocking people who don't have like open minds, because like open minds can be scary. You think it's why it's toxic SL? Well, there you go. There you go. You're no longer taking the thing is you're no longer taking the art in as it was as you did when you were in the target audience. Yeah, but exactly. But at least you know. But because like right now you're outside of the target audience, but at least you know that there is a target audience. That's basically what I mean when I say like how you're supposed to. Because when a person's making, or I should say this, like when a person who's very skillful at storytelling, a person who's very skillful at storytelling has an audience, have a target audience. They're not writing it for everybody. So there are going to, of course, going to be people from outside that target audience who's going to come into the target audience and be like, "Wow, this is really really bad. I really hate this. I don't get why people are so hype about this." That's all I mean when I say that. You know, you're not taking it in how you're supposed to. Like if it affects you, if it gives sometimes the target audience expands for sure, but yeah, I hope I explained myself a bit better about that. But it really feels like with some Cyberpunk 2077, there are some people, I think some people do understand that, like Video Game Donkey. I think he's one of the people who understands that, yeah, the game is just probably not just for me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fine, cool. But there are some people who are like, they have something against Cyberpunk. There's something about Cyberpunk that they just really fucking hate. I think it's I think this was the Reddit thread of that we're basically hating. These people are just basically hating on the game. Or some people are like probably criticizing it, but like from what I can say, yeah, that's pathetic. The game is learning object permanence. Maybe in 20 years we'll have something smart. Yeah. Like they're talking about things that are not like the game. So the whole target about Cyberpunk 2077 is, here's another thing. Here's another point I was going to make. That part of the fun of Cyberpunk is that it's a role-playing game. So, that's what you need to understand. It's meant for immersing into the story, immersing into the world. It's not meant for, it's not meant to be played casually. Like, if you can enjoy it. Now, I do realize that you can play Cyberpunk casually and just get annoyed at the parts where you need to read stuff or you need to do, I don't know, talking. I mean, if you're playing casually, you probably, every time you get into a cutscene where you're talking, you're probably going to be like, the answer is money. Hold on a second, what they're saying? QA, it didn't. What is he responding to? Greedy. Okay, this is so confusing. I do hate that answer. Sometimes the answer is money. Of course, Cyberpunk. Of course, they want money for the game, right? I mean, this is like the same argument. Like, if I don't know what he's answering to, Is this what he's answering to? Like, dude, what the fuck is that? Like, I'm missing some context. Yeah. I don't even know the context of it, but usually if you say that the answer is money, you're not being deep. Like, money is like, a person who's an artist is gonna want money for his own art, right? Like, that's nothing new. Trying to make money as a wiki, yeah. It's like, hey, dude, why you're making, you know, why you want, like, I hate when people think that, oh, because you're doing something for money is illegitimate. But I did hear like an argument about some people were saying that, so I think one of the problems that Cyberpunk had was that they were trying to release the game on, like, was it five different consoles? Yeah, making brain. Yeah, I think they were trying to release Cyberpunk on 5 different consoles as opposed to 3. So usually you only release games on like 3 platforms, PC, Xbox, in the PlayStation. But because they're in the last gen and current gen, they're actually making the game for they're making game ports for Xbox One, PS4, PS5, and the Xbox Series X and PC. I even think someone said that they were making it for Stadia as well, so that would be 6. And I read this one comment when a person was like, why would they do this? Like, why would they try to release the game on all 5 consoles or all 5 platforms? And this one person was like, for money, because they're greedy. And I'm like, like, that's what he said. I'm like, how the fuck are they being greedy if they said that if you buy the game on your last gen consoles, if you buy the game on, say, PS4, you get free on PS5? How is that greedy? It's not. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, you, like, they say that they'll give it for free. Like, that's not, like, them wanting it to put on as many platforms as possible is probably just them being passionate about the game. They really love the game and they want to share it with as many people as possible. That's probably what it is. But of course, people can just be like, well, because of money. Those greedy fucking people. I'm sorry, sir. Why do you work? M14, and this is deep. Okay. Yeah. It's like, I'm sorry, sir. Why do you work for a living? Is it just for money? Do you really not like dealing with customers all day? Do you really not like? I thought you were passionate about this, but I didn't realize you were doing it for money. I mean, come on. Is it great? I'm gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to do that subreddit then. I'm 14 and I'm deep. Okay, I'm already gonna do that. Maybe, fuck, I'm gonna do that now. Maybe at the end of the stream. That actually is some 14. I'm 14 and this is deep. Because I used to be 14 and I used to look at a lot of deep shit and thinking it was deep. Oh my god. One of these days I have to go back. I have to scroll over my old Facebook feed when I was fucking 14, posting deep shit on Facebook. I have to go back and I'll stream it and I'll cringe with y'all. But oh my god, I used to speak so. You know what? I blame Final Fantasy. Oh my god, like Cloud, characters like Cloud, Sephiroth, them speaking so deeply, and I'm like, man, Cloud, I identify with you, man. I blame that game. I blame Final Fantasy, but. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing with when people say that, oh, well, money can't buy happiness. Yeah, like, money can absolutely give you the freedom to get happiness, though. But the way that I look at money is power. Like, money is the power to obtain things. And if you can't obtain anything, then like how are you supposed to be happy? Now, as a metaphor, of course, money buying happiness works. Like money, you can buy happiness with money as a metaphor. But if you're speaking about literally, then of course, literally, you can't buy happiness with money. I mean, I think that's the whole problem with that. With that quote, I think that's the main problem. I think some people are taking that quote literally when it's supposed to be like figuratively or like more like a metaphor. But yeah, some people are making like dumb arguments. This is why I think it's like a hate train that's going on, because there's a lot of people making dumb arguments about Cyberpunk. And there is not just dumb arguments. It's dumb arguments that I'm seeing like everywhere in every comment section. You're seeing the same dumbass argument. So you know that people aren't really thinking this through. They're not being critical. They're just like posting, copying and pasting in comment sections and saying, hey. Yeah, just having money does not bring happiness. You have to do something with it, right? No, but yeah. I do agree with that. Okay, so I do agree with that aspect, where if you think that's... Yeah, the way to understand the whole money cannot buy happiness thing, if you really want to understand it, then it would be to say that trying to get as much money as possible is not going to make you happy, because sometimes the methods of what you have to go through to get that money is not going to make you happy. It's going to be the reason why you're unhappy. So if you have to work 3 jobs for money, that's not going to make you happy. So I do agree. Like, I think, yeah, I do agree. Like, that is one way to look at it. But people are, and money is the root of all evil. Yeah. And like, I've always known this, because in the Bible it actually says that the love of money is the root of all evil. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. It is kind of true. Like, if you ask me, do I love money? It's kind of like, what, do I love power? Do I love freedom? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, you know. Hey, I was like a Christian for 10 years, I know. But it's the same with like, do I love money? I'm like, do I love power? Do I love freedom? Yeah, that's what I hear. But like, ones and zeros, if you're asking me if I like $100 bills or like the concept of money, I think the concept of money can do better. I don't particularly love the concept of money, where it's like yes, exactly. Right, so that's like the kind of love of money that like I think is evil. Like, yeah, or just scalpers, right? People who are scalping off the PS5 so that they can make a profit. Yeah, for sure. Like, if you're okay, so this is like a good way to look at it. If you're like serving money, if your whole thing is like you're kind of just serving money, if you're being led just by money, then that's pretty fucking bad. If your sole purpose for doing anything is just to gain more money, and that's your love for money that you have, then yeah, that's evil. I think that's evil. So yeah, there people making like dumb art, like, oh well, you doing it for money is kind of cringe. But what I was gonna say with I think with Cyberpunk, I kind of feel weird about like, so the reason why, of course, when I was playing Cyberpunk, and this is the last point I'll make, the reason why I about Cyberpunk anyway, the reason why so when Cyberpunk came out and I wanted to stream it, I absolutely had to. That was funny, by the way. I'm just gonna have to do it. That was funny. This was funny. I have to actually show you this real quick. I'm sorry. I'm like ADHD right now, but this is like how it started, how it's going. And then this one comment said, "Wake the fuck up, samurai." We have some some mouth to smoke. That was funny to me. I actually laughed at that. Okay, that was good. I had to save that one. Okay, focus. Grant, look at. Um, but the reason why when I was streaming Cyberpunk, I had to. I didn't want. I wanted to immerse myself into the game. I didn't want to talk to chat. That sounds to 2022. Is because like I know that Cyberpunk is supposed to be taken a different way. This kind of comes back to like taking it how it's supposed to be. Like when you're consuming an art form, you're supposed to be taking it in a certain way. You're not if you get a piece of painting, if someone gives you a painting, you're not supposed to display it in a fish tank. You know, you're not supposed to put it in an aquarium in the water and for all the paint to wash off and then say, this is a bad fucking painting, you know? Like, that's kind of like physical. That's, you know, but the reason why I wanted to is because I know that if I was like talking to chat constantly, I was having people talk to me about like the story and what I should be doing, and I wasn't gonna be taking it as immersive as I was supposed to. So, of course, I can look at chat like every now and then, like I did, and that worked. Honestly, the problem was that I wanted to record the gameplay to put on YouTube, and I couldn't like because it was 6 hours. That was too much, and so now I have to kind of go through the process of breaking down the files and everything. But other than that, I think Cyberpunk is supposed to be played a certain way to enjoy it. So it's weird to me when I see like casual gamers. Just for me personally, it's weird to me when I see casual gamers like play Cyberpunk and they're just doing stupid shit. You know, like there's no immersion. They're just going around shooting random people. They're playing it like GTA 5. Right, when it's supposed to be a role-playing game, but they're playing it like GTA 5, where it's like they're just shooting random people, they're carjacking. Their character that they're supposed to be building up is just bizarre, right? On one hand, their character is super, super nice, and will say that, oh yeah, well, I actually don't want to kill anyone. But then they'll turn around and like shoot a dozen civilians and kill a cop and stuff. This is kind of like the best analogy that I can come up with is how Cyberpunk is, I guess, supposed to be played. I mean, if you're having fun playing Cyberpunk casually, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I think I have a little bit of a problem when a person plays Cyberpunk casually, like joking around and like not taking it serious, and then when they review the game they're like, yeah, I don't get why people like this game. I mean, this game, like, you can't even like keep your cars like you can in GTA 5, or you can't even you know, carjack people, you know. Yeah, just don't play it wrong and complain. That's a perfect way to play it. So play it however you want, but don't play it wrong and then complain. And I say wrong with quotation marks because there's no right way to consume art as long as it's leaving an impression on you. But yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Where it's like it's supposed to be immersive. It's supposed to be like you're supposed to be building a character, and the best analogy that I can come up with is like it's like D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons. When you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, the most fun that you can have with Dungeons and Dragons is if you make a character that's like consistent and that interacts with the world, and the dungeon master can like predict how your character will react and act, and so he can make the story around your character to act certain ways, and it's you acting consistently that's like the fun part. But like but if you ever play Dungeons and Dragons, you always have that one other person who's like just bizarre. He just wants to know how he can sow chaos to the world. And there is a particular character that you can play as like a psychopath, you know? You can play a psychopathic character if you want to. Like, I'm going to be doing that. I have a character that I play through every gameplay that is basically just psychopathic. But it's like when you're not immersed in it, you're just like doing crazy shit. You're not consuming the, I guess, again, it's just that you're not consuming the art how it's supposed to be, and like, so you're just not making a character. It's like with role-playing games, you're supposed to be immersed into the character. You're supposed to be like, okay, well, for example, when I'm playing Cyberpunk, Judas King is the character that I'm playing as, and Judas is a lawful evil kind of guy. I find it easy to play, like, if you just kind of play lawful evil or lawful good kind of characters. If you just kind of copy and paste the mindset into that, that's easy to play in role-playing games. But he's a lawful evil kind of guy, meaning he's not really psychopathic. He doesn't kill people for no reason, but there is a standard in which he would, like, kill a person or do evil. He follows his own standard, basically. I think it was top tier entertainment, and then grew out of that. Yeah, I did too. Like that's more of a, like, yeah, I do agree. When you're a kid, you're mostly, that is a good point, because when you're a kid, you are mostly exploring the world. Like, you don't know how the game is supposed to be played, so you're kind of just exploring. You're trying to know what you can do and what you can't do. You don't really know the rules of it. So, excuse me. So you don't really know the rules of it, and so you're just kind of exploring and seeing what you can do. And when you get a good understanding of what you can and cannot do, only then can you actually roleplay. You know what I mean? And so, like with Judas, like, he is more of a, he more of a stealthy person. He always starts off stealthy, and then he makes contingency plans based on if he gets caught. And so he's not very strict to the plan. He doesn't freak out if the plan goes south. But I could absolutely make a character who will freak out if the plan goes south, and he'll just run away from any engagement that doesn't go according to plan. And so, like, I think that's how, like, if you really want to enjoy RPG games, that's how you would want to play it. You want to play as your character. There's a reason why Cyberpunk, they allow you to customize your character to a very, very high degree, so that you can kind of have an image of what kind of character that is gonna be. And there's a reason for that, right? And casual gamers are just like, I'm gonna make my kid, I'm gonna make my character have like a big junk, and he's gonna have like bizarre mustache, like a porn stash, and he's gonna be like just killing everybody. But he's gonna, but I really like this romance option, so like I'll be nice to this girl because she's fucking hot, you know. And Jackie's alright too. He's not much of a hacker, because hacking minigame is too hard for me. But man, like that's how I'm gonna play my character, you know. And sometimes it's like you can make fun characters like that, but yeah, as long as it's a character and you stay consistent to that, you're playing it as how it's supposed to be. But yeah, that's my take. That's the way that I kind of understand how Cyberpunk is supposed to be played. I mean, you can play chaotically if you want to, and make a character out of that. Maybe that's just your character. That's just the kind of character that you like to play. No, so not criticizing that, but God. Yeah, I was trying to find some threads of Cyberpunk, because apparently they were saying like a lot of people were talking bad about Cyberpunk, and I get people talking bad about like the whole fucking console debacle, but yeah. basically what I wanted to talk about.